My boyfriend showed up 2 hours late to our anniversary dinner with his friends. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Told you she'd wait. She's my backup plan." They all laughed. We'd been together 4 years and I just paid for his marketing course. I smiled, picked up the check. This morning he has 52 missed calls and his stuff is in trash bags behind Target. I used to think love meant being patient, being understanding, making sacrifices. And for a long time, that's exactly what I did for him. His name was Caleb, and we met during a summer volunteer program. He was the guy who brought guitar to beach bonfires, who remembered everyone's coffee order, who kissed my hand when we first met like he'd stepped out of a black and white movie. I was hooked before I even knew I was falling. That was almost 4 years ago. Our relationship wasn't perfect, no one's is, but for a while it felt solid. We had history, traditions, inside jokes, movie nights with too much popcorn, matching pajama sets for Christmas. And even though we had our fights, some small, some stupid, some that kept me up at night, I thought we were the kind of couple that made it through. The kind you tell stories about. Caleb was ambitious but unfocused. Always chasing a new next thing. A new startup, a new app, a new side hustle. And I supported all of it. I covered rent the year he quit his job to pursue creative consulting. I stayed up late proofreading his pitch decks. I fronted the fee for his digital marketing certificate when his credit card maxed out. Because I believed in him. Because I believed in us. This anniversary, the fourth one, meant something to me. We'd been rocky for a few months, mostly him being distant, less affectionate. Always on his phone. I chalked it up to stress, told myself he'd snap out of it once he landed that new remote gig. But something in my gut said, he's slipping away. When he said he made a reservation at Vela, this super fancy rooftop place downtown, my heart practically burst. Vela was the kind of place you needed a 2-month waitlist for. The kind of place with champagne carts and violinists. I thought, okay, this is his way of showing me he's still in this. Maybe even a proposal? I went all out. Got a new dress. Pale gold, backless with delicate straps. I got my nails done simple, soft pink, just in case there was a ring. My best friend may help me curl my hair, and even she said, "You look like a girl about to get engaged." I arrived 10 minutes early, walking in with this excited flutter that made me feel 17 again. The hostess smiled, asked reservation under Caleb, and led me to this gorgeous corner table with city lights behind it. There was already champagne on ice. I kept checking my phone. No texts. No missed calls. 7 p.m. came and went. I sipped water, nervously checking the time every 5 minutes. Told myself, traffic. He's always late. Maybe he stopped to grab flowers or something. At 7:30, the waiter came to ask if I was ready to order. I laughed awkwardly, said I was waiting on someone. At 7:45, I started to feel cold, even though the evening air was warm. At 8 o'clock, I told myself I'd wait 30 more minutes. I scrolled through our texts, looked at the last message he sent. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that gold dress I like, winking face dot." I sat there in that overpriced chair, overlooking the whole city. Heart pounding, not with excitement anymore, but with this dull ache of being forgotten. I should have left. I know that now. But I didn't. Because love, right? Because I thought maybe I meant enough to be worth the wait. At 9:02 p.m., Caleb finally walked in. With 3 of his friends. Laughing. Not even in a hurry. Just strolling in like it was no big deal. I saw him before he saw me. Caleb, in that navy button-down I got him for his birthday last year, walking in like he owned the place. His hair was messy in that I tried but didn't really kind of way, and he had this smirk plastered across his face like he was the star of some rom-com I wasn't invited to. Behind him were 3 of his friends, Gabe, Jordan, and Theo. They were loud, the kind of loud that didn't belong in a place like Vela. The kind of loud that made people turn their heads. I sat up straight. Smoothed my dress. My heart tried to leap in relief, but something in his body language told me not to get too excited. He spotted me. And instead of walking over with flowers or an apology or even a sheepish grin, he laughed. Actually laughed. Then, loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear, he turned to his friends and said, "See? Told you she'd still be here." Like a pathetic little puppy. They all burst out laughing. One of them, Jordan, I think, clapped him on the back like he just won a bet. And me? I froze. I wish I could say I stood up and walked out. That I poured my water in his lap or screamed or caused a scene. But I didn't. I sat there blinking, trying to understand if I'd misheard. If he was joking. If this wasn't some sick performance. Caleb pulled out a chair and sat down like nothing happened. His friends took the other seats. One of them, Gabe, nodded at me awkwardly. Hey, he said, like we were just all grabbing drinks after a movie. I looked at Caleb. Seriously? He shrugged. Don't be dramatic. He didn't even introduce me to his friends. Didn't acknowledge that I'd been sitting there for 2 hours. Didn't mention the champagne. The reservation. My dress. Nothing. Just picked up the menu like this was casual. Did you order yet? He asked, flipping through the wine list like he hadn't just publicly humiliated me. I wanted to scream. Cry. Throw something. But instead I smiled. Because that's what you do when you're taught to keep it together. I was raised to handle things gracefully. To be the better person. So I smiled. Nope, I said, voice perfectly calm. Was waiting for the guest of honor. He smirked at that. Told you guys, he said again, like I wasn't even there. Loyal to a fault. They chuckled. I flagged down the waiter, ordered another drink, something stronger this time. Then I just sat there while they talked over me, around me, through me. About work, about basketball, about some girl Gabe hooked up with last weekend. At one point, Caleb leaned over and said, "You look nice, by the way. Should have worn that dress last month when we went to that wedding." I didn't respond. Because what do you say to someone who's trying to drag you down to their level? The whole dinner was a blur after that. I didn't touch my food. I barely heard the music from the string quartet a few tables over. The only thing I felt was my hands shaking under the table and my heart growing colder by the minute. When the bill came, Caleb glanced at it and then slid it across the table toward me. "I forgot my card," he said. "You've got it, right?" And I just nodded. Because I wasn't about to let him see me flinch. Because I already had a plan forming. Because sometimes the best revenge doesn't happen in that moment, but the next morning. I paid the bill. $312. For him, his friends, their cocktails, their steak, their arrogance. I signed the receipt with a smile so steady it scared even me. Caleb didn't even say thank you. Just joked to the waiter, "She spoils me, doesn't she?" Like I was some doting sugar mama instead of a woman being humiliated in real time. As they stood up to leave, he leaned in, whispered something that I still hear sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep. "Don't make this weird. You always overreact." Then they walked out. No kiss goodbye. No hug. Not even a backward glance. Just me, sitting there at that candlelit table, dressed like someone who thought she was going to be proposed to, staring at 4 empty chairs and a paid receipt with his name in the reservation and my card charged. I didn't cry. Not there. Not even in the elevator down from the rooftop. Instead, I walked out of that restaurant like I was floating. Like I was watching myself from above. The valet guy gave me this look like he wasn't sure if he should say something, but he handed me my keys in silence. The drive home was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own breathing. I didn't even turn on music. Just stared at the red lights, one after another, and wondered how the hell I had let it get this bad. When I got home, I kicked off my heels, peeled off the dress, and stood in my bedroom like a ghost. I could still smell his cologne in my sheets. Still see the hoodie he left on the back of my desk chair. The sneakers he never tied sitting by the door. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I gathered every hoodie, every charger, every pair of socks that somehow ended up in my laundry. The hoodie I stole for myself? Threw that in too. No exceptions. His gaming headset. The little signed baseball I bought him. The cologne I gave him for our first Christmas. His half-used shampoo in my shower. All of it went into trash bags. Neatly tied. Then I dragged it all to my trunk. And drove it to the dumpster behind the Target parking lot. Why not drop it off at his place? Because that would have been too generous. I didn't owe him a neat ending. I didn't owe him anything. By the time the sun was rising, my apartment was completely Caleb-free. No trace of him except for the silence and the sticky note I left on the fridge for myself. "You are not someone's backup plan." That morning, my phone started going off. First, a couple of texts. Then calls. By 11 a.m., I had 78 missed calls and 14 voicemails. The first one was calm. "Hey, I think you overreacted last night. Can we talk?" By voicemail number 6, he was panicking. "What the hell, where's my stuff? Why aren't you answering?" By number 12, he was outside my apartment, banging on the door. I didn't open it. I watched through the peephole as he paced in front of my building, calling me, texting me, even trying to DM me on Instagram with "I didn't mean it like that. Come on." Then silence. And honestly, that was the best part. Because finally I could hear myself think again. By the time Caleb stopped blowing up my phone, I'd blocked his number, deleted our old messages, and archived every photo of us into a folder labeled, "Let that sink in." I didn't want to delete it all, at least not yet. I wanted the evidence. Not of the love, but of the lies. The patterns. The way he slowly trained me to accept less and less while I gave more and more. And when I finally sat in the quiet of my own space, that's when it hit me. I'd been ghosted in plain sight. Not the sudden kind. Not the text left unread kind. No, I'd been ghosted while still being physically present, emotionally erased while in the same room as the person I loved. You'd be amazed how many ways someone can tell you you're not enough without saying it outright. I replayed the dinner in my head. Over and over. Not just that night at Vela, but all the others. The jokes that cut too close. The compliments with caveats. You look cute, even with no makeup. I like that dress better when you wear heels. You're lucky I'm patient with your moods. God. I used to laugh at those. I used to think I was being cool for brushing them off. But now I saw it, how little pieces of me had been shaved away by tiny, constant jabs until I barely recognized myself. May came over that evening. She brought wine, Thai food, and the kind of silence that only a best friend knows how to fill. She didn't ask what happened. She just looked at me and said, "What do you need?" I told her the truth, I don't know. We sat on the couch, my legs curled under me, her braid messy from work, and I told her everything. Not just about the anniversary dinner, but all of it. The gaslighting. The jokes. The guilt-tripping every time I asked for something as small as quality time. She didn't interrupt. Just nodded. And when I was done, she whispered, "I never liked him." I laughed. "Why didn't you say anything?" She shrugged. "Because you loved him. And I knew if I pushed too hard, you'd defend him. You needed to see it for yourself." And damn, she was right. That night, we made a playlist. Not a sad one, but a freedom playlist. We named it He's Trash and I Recycle. We ordered dessert, rewrote my dating profile, not to use, just for fun, and by midnight, I laughed so hard I snorted water out my nose. That was the first time I felt okay. Not great, but okay. It's weird how someone can mistreat you for months, years even, and you don't fully realize how heavy that weight was until it's finally off your chest. The next morning, I got one last message. Not from Caleb. From his mom. A simple text. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I don't know what he was thinking. You deserved better. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, "Thank you." I'm finally realizing that too. By the third day of silence, Caleb did something I didn't expect. He emailed me. A full letter, 3 long paragraphs, no subject line, just titled with the date. Like it was a confession he needed documented. I didn't open it right away. I wasn't ready to let him narrate anything anymore. But curiosity is a cruel thing, and sometime around 2 a.m., when the glow of my laptop was the only light in my room, I clicked it. The tone was familiar. That self-aware, charming humility he used to use when he messed up. He said he was sorry. He said he'd been trying to impress the guys and thought it was just banter. He said he didn't realize how much he was hurting me and that I'd always been the most stable thing in his life. He called me his home. And I just sat there, staring at the words, feeling nothing. Not relief. Not sadness. Not even anger. Just this strange emptiness where love used to live. Because here's the thing, apologies mean very little when they come after someone gets caught being cruel. If I hadn't walked out? If I'd paid the bill, gone home with him, laughed it off? Would he still have apologized? Or would I still be sitting across from him, pretending the disrespect didn't sting? I didn't respond. That weekend, I went to Mays Lake House with 2 other girlfriends. No cell service, just wine, old swimsuits, and the kind of laughter that makes your face hurt. We made s'mores like kids and played board games we half remembered the rules to. On Saturday night, I opened my phone just long enough to check voicemails. There were 4 new ones from Caleb, each more desperate than the last. In one, his voice cracked. "I messed up. I was so stupid. I thought you'd always be there." And that's when it hit me. He never chose me. He counted on me. He never loved me out of admiration. He loved me out of convenience. Out of comfort. Out of knowing I'd always say it's okay. But it wasn't okay. It never was. And I think that's what broke me open in the best possible way. Because when I looked back at everything, every ignored text, every joke at my expense, every time he needed help but was never there when I did, I realized something simple but brutal. I had mistaken consistency for care. He didn't stay because he cherished me. He stayed because I did. On Sunday I wrote a list. At the top I wrote, things I gave that were never returned. It was longer than I expected. Time, energy, patience, forgiveness, money, emotional labor, physical space, self-respect. And still, it ended with him laughing at me across a white linen tablecloth, surrounded by friends who thought it was funny that I waited. Let them laugh. Let him cry. Because me? I was finally done playing the fool. The thing no one tells you about breaking free is how quiet it is. You think it'll be fireworks, a cinematic walk-off, a dramatic slam of a door. But it's not. It's emptier. It's the click of block on your phone. It's the silence when you stop checking if they're thinking of you. It's peace, and peace is loud in a different way. The following week, I went into full cleanup mode. I Marie Kondo'd my life. Anything that reminded me of him? Gone. The mug he left in my cabinet? Trash. The Spotify playlists he made me? Deleted. Even the half-used bottle of hot sauce he kept in my fridge like it was his personal artifact gone. I deep-cleaned my apartment like I was scrubbing him out of the grout. And somewhere between vacuuming under the bed and rearranging my closet, I found something I'd completely forgotten about. The little envelope marked, "Do not open until our 5th anniversary." He gave it to me a year ago. Sealed. He said, "Open it next year. I'll write one every year, and we'll read them all on our 10th. It was cheesy and sweet and one of those small things that made me stay longer than I should have. I sat on the floor holding it for a while, and then I opened it. It said, "I don't know what the future looks like, but I know I want you in it. I don't always say it right, but I'm better because of you. Thank you for loving me even when I forget how to love myself." I didn't cry, because that wasn't a love letter. That was a warning. Even back then, he knew he was giving me less than I deserved. He just hoped I'd keep settling for it anyway. That's the thing with men like Caleb, they don't love you for who you are. They love you for how much you let them be. The more I healed, the clearer it all became. Caleb didn't miss me. He missed the version of himself he got to be when I was around. He missed being forgiven, being uplifted, being covered, supported, celebrated without ever doing the same for me. He missed the convenience of my loyalty, not the woman who carried it. I got a text from Jordan a few days later. One of the boys from that dinner. Just 3 words. "You okay now?" I stared at it for a minute, then typed back. I was never the one who needed help. No reply. Didn't expect one. That week, Caleb tried again, this time through Venmo of all places. Sent me $312 with the note. "Dinner. I owe you that much." I didn't accept it. I didn't even decline. I just left it pending. Like our entire relationship had been half-hearted, unresolved, waiting for someone to make the final decision. But that someone wasn't going to be him. Not anymore. Because I had made it. Because I was done. Because the worst part wasn't that he made me wait. It's that I believed I had to. Few weeks passed. No new messages. No unexpected appearances. No more accidental likes on my old photos or new follows from burner accounts with suspiciously familiar usernames. He'd finally stopped reaching out. Or maybe he just realized I was never going to answer. Either way, the silence was no longer a weight on my chest. It was freedom. One morning while making coffee, I caught myself humming some silly little tune I hadn't thought of in years. And it hit me, I was slowly becoming me again. Not the version I bent into to make someone else comfortable. Just me. I started sleeping better, breathing easier, laughing louder. May and I booked a weekend trip to Santa Fe just because. I went on long walks without checking my phone. I bought the good wine at Trader Joe's without justifying it to anyone. And when my boss offered me a leadership training course, I said yes without worrying about how it would affect someone else's schedule. I didn't even realize how many tiny choices I used to weigh against Caleb's moods. Until he was gone, I hadn't noticed how much space he'd occupied in the quiet corners of my life. The best part? No one was draining me anymore. No one was making me feel guilty for existing too loudly or needing too much. No one was treating my love like a safety net, while they walked a tightrope of immaturity and male ego. It's funny. Everyone always talks about heartbreak like it's a sharp thing. But for me, it wasn't the shattering that hurt most. It was the slow erosion. The subtle chipping away of my voice. My confidence. my sparkle. And walking away from him wasn't just about leaving a bad partner. It was about reclaiming all the parts of me I'd been taught to minimize. Now every time I pass by Vela, the rooftop restaurant where he humiliated me, I don't flinch. I don't think of the waiting, or the bill, or the sting of being mocked. I think of the moment I finally stood up, maybe not from that table, but from everything else. I think of the next morning when I threw his things in the trash without a second thought. I think of the version of me who smiled through the pain, paid the bill, and still walked out with her head high. That girl? She was never pathetic. She was powerful. She just didn't know it yet. And as for Caleb? Well, I know how that story ends. He'll keep reaching out in invisible ways. Maybe he'll circle back months from now under the guise of closure. Maybe he'll meet someone else and realize she doesn't carry him the way I did. Maybe he'll finally look inward. But by then it won't matter. Because I'll be long gone. Unreachable. Not bitter, just better. And when people ask me about him, because eventually they always do, I'll just smile and say, he was a lesson. And I learned. Then I'll finish my drink, check my lipstick in the mirror, and move on. Just like I always do.